Hey there, fellow entrepreneurs. I'm Sue, and you've just stepped into Entrepreneurs Gone Wild. Every week, I'll introduce you to a friend of mine, a remarkable entrepreneur who's not just changing the world, but also harnessing a secret weapon, time outdoors. Together, we'll dive into their journey, unpack invaluable business advice, and discover why embracing the wild is not just good for the soul, but also a goldmine for inspiration and innovation. Ready to uncover the secret that's boosting bottom lines and fueling joy? Hit subscribe and join us in the wild.
Welcome back to Entrepreneurs Gone Wild. Ladies and gentlemen, today I'm really excited to introduce to you Greg Bennick. He's a keynote speaker dedicated to helping organizations unlock focus and create possibilities. He inspires the corporate and association market with ideas, interaction, and entertainment. As an experienced speaker, Greg provides practical strategies and engaging content designed to improve productivity, foster innovation, and boost morale. Greg's also the author of Reclaim the Moment, 7 Strategies for a Better Life at Work and Beyond. It's a book that's packed with actionable insights for just basically achieving greater presence and effectiveness in all areas of life. Get ready to meet an expert who's transforming workplaces with actionable strategies for success. Greg, welcome to Entrepreneurs Gone Wild. I'm really happy to have you here.
This is awesome. I love this interview already. I love your approach. I love the feeling of it. Listeners, I'm happy to be here, and I mean that sincerely. This is great.
We are going to have so much fun. Oh my gosh, I'm so tempted to jump into the part where your 70-year-old dad completed the Appalachian Trail and the internet desert that you live in. Well, not anymore. It has been morphed, and your book, of course, and how you do. I have so many questions, but we're going to start with the one that I always ask first, which is, who do you serve and what problem do you help them solve?
Absolutely. So I'm a team building speaker who helps teams regain their focus. And you mentioned the book, Reclaim the Moment. The tagline, 7 Strategies to Build a Better Now, is all about coming back to center in a world that so easily throws us off center. And ultimately what you and I are talking about today, getting out in the world, getting out into the wild, is about recentering ourselves ultimately, because there's 101,000 things every second that could pull our attention away from what matters most. So I help teams. I'm a team building speaker, and my focus is on focus because it's the thing I've struggled with most in my life, but I've paid most attention to. So that's what I do and who I serve.
I love that. Focusing on focus, like focusception, that's
I like that.
Great.
Yeah.
Focus is one of these things where, I don't know, I may be the only entrepreneur out there that you've ever encountered who can have squirrel brain sometimes, but I'm thinking probably not. Right?
Probably not. Well, I think entrepreneurs run in 2 worlds. I think either they are like us, squirrel-brained, as the case may be, or they are hyper-focused, and they have teams helping them pick up the pieces of little things that might slip by as they're focused on the goal. So.
Huge. And it's crazy because I've just, in the last year, have engaged with a company that helps me so I can do my squirrel brain stuff because they do the focus stuff, which is wonderful. I think like a founder, we have that, we're uniquely positioned, called, equipped to share a grand vision. But that can kind of get in but it doesn't feel like, well, I'm just talking about my vision. How's that? I'm not doing anything. I should be hitting buttons and stuff. No, don't. You need a team for that type of thing, I think. So.
Yeah, it helps. Having a team helps.
Man, I love this. All right, how did you get to where you are? I'm sure you didn't come out of the womb with this book in hand or in mind, and
No,
how did you get there?
So I actually, one of the things I love to do more than anything else in the world is collect, research, and write about rare coins. I bring that up just because then audience members, you'll get to know a bit more about me, but I write for 3 different coin publications. I'm on the board of 2 different rare coin organizations. I travel around the country going to coin shows all the time. Here's why I tell you that. When I was 12 years old, all I wanted to do was collect coins. And my middle school, offered mini courses after school in things like baseball, art, gymnastics, sewing. I wanted there to be a coin collecting mini course, and the school told me that if I found someone to teach it, they would add it to the roster of classes. Well, I did. They added it to the roster. I signed up for the coin collecting mini course, and the school secretary made a mistake and signed up another kid for the coin collecting course and signed me up for a juggling course by mistake. I was completely dismayed. My life was over at age 12, basically.
Oh.
I walk into this juggling class on the first day, and there's a young boy in there. I'll never forget him. His name was John. He's standing 10 feet in front of me, juggling 3 baseballs. I took one look at him and I said, that's what I want to do for the rest of my life. Now, as it turned out, I learned how to juggle. I became a professional juggler at age 13 years old, doing my first professional events at age 13, did my first corporate at 15. Okay. And I have stories in my book about meeting high power corporate folks at 15 years old. Okay. The point is, what I didn't realize then was that what I was most attracted to wasn't just the fact that juggling is cool. It was that he was focusing as he was throwing these baseballs. And I didn't realize then that I had ADHD. I didn't realize then that focus would be a challenge throughout my life. What I realized was that he was focusing, right? I came to realize that later, that he was focusing. But in the moment, I thought, I want to do that. Well, I started juggling, performing. From there, I realized very quickly that when you speak about something meaningful while you're entertaining people, they remember what you're talking about. So that's where speaking came from, in addition to the fact that my mother is a professional speaker for years, and speaking's in my blood. So it's incredible that I've seen my mom speak. She's now retired from it, but I saw her speak and was blown away at how potent and incredible she was. But that's how all this happened. And, just as a slight add-on, I got signed to Wiley, who is a major publisher who put out my book, because I was at my friend's place and I was going to go out to dinner with him and his wife and all of their kids. Like, they had 5 or 6 kids. And we were waiting for waiting for his wife and for his kids to be ready to go out to eat. And I started teaching his kids how to juggle in their living room. And his wife turned to me and said, Greg, tell me about yourself. What's with the juggling? You're an interesting guy. I said, well, I'm this coin collecting, juggling, keynote speaker, who likes being outside and living my life. Okay. I said, I'm working on a couple different books. And she said, oh, wow, I used to be in book publishing. If I ever get back into it, I'll let you know. And 6 years later, sent me a message out of nowhere and said, hey, I've been watching your career. Would you be interested? I'm working for Wiley now. Would you be interested in putting a book out on Wiley as a publisher? And
That's signed. Incredible.
Incredible. It's quite literally like if you and I formed a band right now and we called it the Sue and Greg Heavy Metal Experience, and Sony Records calls in an hour and says, we want to sign you guys. We'd be like, we don't know what we're called yet.
Who is this? Right?
So that's the story.
Incredible. I love that in so many ways, but the first thing that pops to mind is we never know where things are going to head. You could never have guessed that this was going to be the path that you had. That's insane. Oh my gosh. Yeah,
it truly is. Like, mistakes or missteps have led to everything I have in my life, right? I mean, I got signed up for a mini course because a school secretary made a mistake. A school secretary in Woodbury, Connecticut, tasked with putting 200 kids into mini courses. Of course she made a mistake. If she didn't, she'd be superhuman. Led to everything I have in my life. And then getting signed to Wiley. I mean, I've got a book out. It's available everywhere on the planet, right? And it's because it's because I taught some kids how to juggle in a living room. And people come to me and they say, Greg, how do I get signed to, I've got a book. How do I get signed to a major publisher? And what I tell them,
go back to 7th grade. Right?
100%. I tell them, I say, teach some kids how to juggle in a living room and then sit and wait for 6 years. Go play
for me.
Go play Fortnite or climb a tree or do whatever you do, and you'll get a contract. That's what happened to me.
It's so amazing. It's the other thing is you weren't aiming at that. You were just doing what you loved.
Right. That's right.
That's so cool.
And people say it all the time, right? When you're not looking for love, that's when it happens. Or if you're, you get it, right? And it's very true in my case. Those stories are, every word of those is true. There's not one bit of embellishment there. It's like, I probably diminished the embellishment for brevity. It's quite incredible.
That's amazing. And oh man, all right. I love that so much. So you had kind of, you had these, your mom being kind of this role model. I'm sure growing up, you're like, I don't know what she does. She talks to people, right?
And it's interesting. My mom, as an entrepreneur, changed her career every 10 years intentionally.
And that was not when this was done, guys, like years ago. Like, I don't know how old your mom is, but my mom is 79 almost. And like when they were, the work years then, it was like you stayed with a company for 30 years. That was it,
Yeah, and then that's, my dad switched careers as well, but my mom intentionally in the 1980s and the 90s switched her career every 10 years, and the 70s, switched her career every 10 years. So she was a school teacher, then she was an aerobics instructor, then she was a hypnotherapist, then she owned a business that helped kids who were having learning disabilities learn more effectively, and then she became, in her last years before she retired, an aqua aerobics instructor and an exercise coach for elderly folks. And she did that so that she would always have something vibrant and always have that fire and that energy. So, I mean, when she was speaking all along in those situations, speaking to schools, speaking about exercise, speaking about hypnosis, speaking about, I was watching this happen going, what does my mom do? And when I finally went to one of her presentations, she said, I was in Virginia on the East Coast where they used to live. And I said, Mom, I'm going to be in town. And she said, Greg, I have this speaking presentation. You should come. She said, it's sold out, but you can go. I'm like, what? What are you talking about? Sold out. And truth to tell, 200 people had bought tickets at like $1.50 each or whatever to come see my mom at a hospital. And I walked in and watched my mom deliver a presentation called Exercising as We Age. And she, for 90 minutes, absolutely crushed it. And for anyone who's spoken, 5 minutes is a while. 30 minutes is a long time. I'm a keynote speaker, so sure, 45 to 60, I'm totally comfortable. 90 minutes is a solid amount of time to hold an audience, unless you're doing backflips or something. And my mom just spoke and for 90 minutes held and enthralled the audience. And I was just sitting there thinking, oh my gosh, like this is incredible. Yeah, amazing. Yep.
That's like a marathon of speaking.
It's a marathon.
And to have them right in your hand, like you must have just been bursting with pride.
Incredible.
Like?
Yeah, it was incredible. I mean, and you have to imagine my mom. My mom's about 5'2". She's just waving at her friends before she starts to speak. And they introduce her, please welcome Diane Benick. And she walks out and she looks at the audience and it's like, if you don't exercise as you age, they will find you or read about you in the paper. And like, it gives them like this like ultimatum, like life and death ultimatum. But then proceeds through comedy and being heartfelt and being connected to ease the intensity of the intro and deliver her points to this powerful conclusion. I mean, I was standing in the back of the room, like I didn't know what to do. I didn't know whether to text my friends, take note, retire. I had no idea. I didn't know what to do.
I don't know what to do with my hands.
I had no idea. It was amazing.
That is so incredible. Wow. Yep. So, all right, so you've got this genetic propensity for being able to do this.
Yep.
For speaking, I mean, the statistic is everybody, people would rather be dead than to speak publicly, all this kind of stuff. How did you learn how to do this? Was that part of, juggling that helps?
Yeah, it came about naturally. And I'm one of the people who would most definitely not rather be dead, right? That's like one of my personal goals.
Good thing.
Let's not be dead. But I write about it in my book. There was a moment when I was 15, I alluded to it earlier in our conversation. When I was 15, I was juggling at a party, an outdoor event, summertime event for a company called Remington. They make shavers and whatnot. And their CEO and founder was a guy named Victor Kiam. And Victor Kiam was very famous for some commercials. I'll use this pen as my razor. In these commercials, Victor Kiam held up a Remington razor and he said, Remington, I like this razor so much, I bought the company.
I remember that ad. Okay, yeah.
So Kiam later went on to own the New England Patriots. He was one of the most powerful men in business. He was your, Jeff Bezos of, Bill Gates of the time, right? And I'm juggling at a Remington party, and I'm juggling these 3 colorful juggling balls. I'm 15 years old, and all of a sudden there's a hush over the audience, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm not that good. And I turn around, and in walks Victor Kiam himself, surrounded by handlers. Kiam's wearing this colorful shirt, just like ready to go to this party. His handlers are all in suits. It's the middle of the summer in Connecticut. I mean, this is like a serious group of humans. And Victor Kiam walks right up to me and he says, hey, juggler, let me see those juggling balls. And I hand him the juggling balls. He does this rudimentary juggle. And all of his handlers just give him this golf clap, right? And everyone gives him and he hands the juggling balls back to me. And he says, these are, he's like, these are nice juggling balls. I took the 3 juggling balls in my hand. I held them up like this. And I said, thank you. I like these juggling balls so much. I bought the company.
Oh my
Okay.
gosh.
There was a pause where no one laughed. And I thought to myself, I'm about to be killed by Victor Kiam's. And then Victor Kiam laughed, and then everybody laughed. Okay, that was the moment where I said, ooh, tie in what you do with performing, juggling, entertaining to messages which are customized for your clients. Speak clearly about it and concisely, and you will win every time. And that's where it started. That's where the speaking started, and tying in customized client initiatives to what I do. Tying it around my theme of team building and focus. That's where it all started, was with Victor Kiam and making him laugh when I was 15 years old.
That is amazing. I mean, most 15, I would have been like, forget it. All right, and then, to have the specialty in team building too, like, how did that come about?
Yeah, I actually for years played in a band and toured around the world and talked to folks all the time about community and connection with one another. And, what happens theatrically when a room full of people come together to watch a band and sing lyrics that are meaningful to them. And, my band wasn't an extraordinarily popular band by any means, and in fact, quite the opposite. But, when people come together around music, this is a theatrical experience, and being on stages my entire life, I know what theater means and what it can do, and what happens to people when they come together, whether in the theater, at a sporting event, at a team meeting, whatever it is. You get people coming together, there's a synergy and a dynamism to human interactivity, which is incredibly powerful. And if you focus that, forget about it. Amazing things can happen, right? So I would see that literally all over the world. I would be in Macedonia, I'd be in Europe, I'd be in South America, wherever I happen to be, I would see this time and time again, whether I was with the band or speaking on my own. So I started really paying attention to what do people want and what do they need? And what people want and need, they want to be part of something that's meaningful. They want to matter. They want to be part of a collective that's meaningful, whether that's the collective of entrepreneurs gone wild, whether that's the collective of human beings who care about the world, whether that's the collective of people who have this focus because of their job. People want to be part of something meaningful and know that they matter. So I started thinking about that all the time, started writing about it and speaking about it. And that's where we ended up.
It's incredible. Oh my gosh. All right. So you go and you speak, right? And so, I mean, what kinds are you doing, like in-person speaking these days? Is that kind of open back up? Or is it mostly on Zoom and you're, like brought in as we're going to hear from Greg Bennick. Like, what is it like?
Yes and yes. So
Okay.
in person, yes, doing keynotes on stages at association and company events and corporate events, and then Zoom from time to time. Absolutely, there's still Google Meet and Zoom meetings happening, and it's effective. If I was running a company, yes, I would love to have Greg Bennick come in and be on stage and entertain and speak and have potency with my words and whatnot. But I'd also think, wow, we could save a bunch of money by doing this virtually. And rather than canceling events, there's still people who are doing virtual, which is great. So yeah, a bit of both. But I love being on stage. I love the synergy of live audiences. I love how it feels. And I also do workshops on the topics I speak about. So being in person with people is really nice. It's really nice. You can do it virtually, of course, but in person is great.
Oh yeah, there's just something special about, like, inch to inch, face to face.
Absolutely.
All right, so you're speaking on stage. Do you have something like, what happens next? Do you have all right, you consult with them, you're coaching with it, like anything, like are you selling anything from the back of the room?
I can, right? I can sell copies of my books, certainly, and I'm always happy to have people buy the book and read it and whatnot. But oftentimes it's workshops and consulting, yes, where I'm talking to people after the fact and making sure that the messages are resonating. Because one thing that I don't want is to be on stage and do 45 minutes to an hour and then say see you later, bye, and never talk to people again. So I'm always in touch with clients and always checking in with them and always making sure that they're okay, they're doing better, they're thriving, their teams are coming together. There's always a process of follow-up, because I think relationships, it's trite to say, but they really do matter. It makes a big difference. It makes a big difference. So I'm always trying to build and establish and strengthen relationships with clients.
That's so great. That is just amazing. I love that. And I think, there's just something that happens, like as an audience member, when you have a speaker come in and you really get them, like they're like they make this impact. You could feel a shift that happens, right? And then you want more. You like, all right, what else can you show me? How can, wanting to be able to have more of that input, that guidance, their wisdom and all that. So that is super cool.
Yeah, thank you. I love working with people, and especially working with them short-term, long-term, mid-term, rather than just come in and out. Thank you very much. Here's the speaking part of today, and see you later. Bye. I'd much rather interact over longer period of time.
For sure. And what you're doing is so important too, because being at, if for anybody who has a W-2, it's like, all right, the companies will be like, we're like family around here, which is code for, oh my goodness, we have no boundaries. You're gonna but it can be like some of the most amazing relationships you ever have in your life. It can be some of the most destructive. It occupies so much of our brain, the politics that go, like all of that. So you are really this is public service. You're doing
thank you.
Helping,
I love that. I agree with
huge.
you. Yeah, I agree with you. I write about it in the book where I talk about leadership and what that means and what it signifies and how important it is for people to reverberate amongst one another rather than just have, it be a one-way transaction where leaders tell followers, as the case may be, what needs to happen for the betterment of an organization. Listenership and leadership work together hand in hand. And when we reverberate together as a team, all of a sudden we have a transformational dynamic, which inspires people. People want to feel as though their contributions are meaningful and that they're doing work that matters. So when you get people thinking along those lines and feeling and living and acting and working along those lines, all of a sudden it's like high octane fuel for teamwork.
Now, I've gone to some leadership development retreats in particular, or, programs and stuff. Like one in particular, we went up into the redwood forest in North California. We jumped off of climbed up very, very tall poles and jumped off, belted in, of course.
Of course.
Or, pulling people over this 20-foot wall. I mean, various things like that. Do you in your consult, are there what I liked about it, what I'm trying to spit out is it was a very visceral experience. That's going to imprint. I can still feel it. It was 2007. I'm standing on top of this thing that felt like a phone pole. And it was okay, and I'm jumping off this to catch a trapeze. Are you crazy? But I still remember, do you have things like that you work into in personal?
Not jumping off of poles, but I do interactive classes where I'm teaching people how to juggle as individuals and as teams. And it sounds like a circus skill, but it's way beyond that. We're talking about motivation. We're talking about positivity. We're talking about self-encouragement. We're talking about confidence. And then, there's interactive team dynamics which come into play. So there's definitely interactive activities I do, and coaching and strategizing around team building activities. But I will say this. One of the most powerful moments of my life, I know, was the moment where I sat in an airplane with the door open, with my legs hanging out of the airplane, ready to do my first skydive. And that moment where you're at 12,500 feet, free from the plane, is the most liberating experience of one's life. And for those who are afraid of heights, I'm apologizing in advance for describing this. All of a sudden, you're flying through space and time at whatever, 60, 100, I don't know the physics of it, miles an hour. And you're thinking to yourself, oh my gosh, I did this. I'm doing this. I probably will learn and live to tell about this. This is incredible, incredibly empowering. So you standing on top of that pole, I can totally relate. And I'll send you a photo of me jumping out of airplanes, and you can include that for listeners as well.
Oh, I would love that. That is so amazing. Yeah, and there's that moment and it's the same thing in business where you've made a big decision, you're going to launch this thing or you're doing it, whatever. Okay, I'm really doing this, I'll probably survive.
That's right. And the thing is, when you jump out of a plane, there's a moment where you realize, I have no control over the situation right now. I'm putting my faith in the process. And sure, yes, there's a chance you're going to hit the ground. Infinitesimally small chance that that's going to happen. And it didn't. I'm here to talk to you today. That's great. So, but what does happen is you submit to the process. You submit to the expertise of others. You submit to the team. The person strapped to my back knows what they're doing. And together we're making this experience happen. I made the choice to be here. They're making sure that it goes through without a hitch. And when we're working as a team, we have to believe in our partners and our teammates in that way. And I think it really adds to our effectiveness. Like I said, high octane fuel for teamwork. It's a quote in my new promo video. And I love that quote because all of a sudden when we believe in the people we're working with, we create infinite possibility because all of a sudden we expand our own potential massively.
Love that. Oh my gosh. I could talk about that with you forever. cool. But I want to shift because like it is Entrepreneurs Gone Wild.
Yes.
And I always want to know, like, what is the thing that you're doing when you're outside, when you get like, oh, this great idea just hit me. I got to write this down really fast. What is that thing, Greg?
Yeah. I mean, do you mean what is the thing that I use to write the idea down?
No, what are you doing when it happens?
Okay, a couple different things. At home, when I'm at home, I'm swimming. Okay, so I go swimming or scuba diving. I'm big into scuba diving. When I'm in the water or under the water, there's oftentimes nothing to do other than to continue the swim or continue the dive. And certainly as a scuba diver, I don't want to be too diminishing of what it is. There's a lot going on when you're scuba diving. You're keeping track of your buddy, you're keeping track of oxygen and depth and whatnot. But then you're just breathing. You're breathing underwater. There's an octopus. You're breathing underwater. Cool. There's a sea creature. And you're breathing. A lot of ideas come up. So keeping track of those ideas underwater is challenging. I have a wrist slate that I can write things on if I choose to. But when I'm in the swimming pool, I don't have the wrist slate. I just have to keep them in mind. But swimming. But hiking also leads to a number of different ideas coming about. And I think it's really interesting. I don't hike much, but when I do, it's awesome. And I hiked recently in Scotland, actually about a week and a half ago. I hiked Ben Hope. In Scotland, there are mountains called Munros. A Munro is any mountain of 3,000 feet or higher, basically. There's 242, don't quote me on that, Munros in Scotland. The northernmost Munro is Ben Hope. That's the name of the mountain. And my friend Paul Brook and I hiked Ben Hope. And it was windy, and it was cold, and it was steep, and it was challenging. And all the while my brain is going and I'm thinking of ideas and thinking about different things and, remembering to write them down in the midst of this challenging hike. And we eventually made it to the top and it was triumphant. We took a picture up there. It was amazing. But it's the hiking or the walking outside or being underwater. That's where ideas flow.
And I think that hiking thing, you've got the hiking gene from your dad, right? Tell us a little bit about, this is so cool because we're near the Appalachian Trail, so I'm always fascinated by people who make the whole ride.
My dad hiked the entire Appalachian Trail. He did it in 3 sections. So what he would do is he would do a section, then come back to a cairn that he would set up like a pile of rocks and literally start from his foot, that section. But he did these sections at age, I think he was 70, 71, and 72 when he did it. He's now 84. But he was in his early 70s. He might have even been 73, 74, 75 when he hiked the entire Appalachian Trail, which for listeners goes from Springer Mountain in Georgia to Mount Katahdin in Maine. He did the entire thing successfully. It was a massive achievement. And he did it. He did it. So yes, there's a genetic propensity for speaking and for walking in the woods that I carry with me everywhere I go, thanks to my dad and my mom.
I love that. That is, this is like, they'll be, when people have kids, they're like, oh, looks like mom, looks like dad, or perfect mix. You got the, I don't know what they look like, but your life looks like some of the stuff that they've done, which is
exactly, really... definitely. Yeah, I'm a good genetic crossbreed of the two, without a doubt.
All right, what's ahead for you? Like if you were looking at, this is the first time, I sometimes ask this question, and this time it's really, really fitting. If you were looking off into the distance in your mission, your career, all this, what's the next big hill?
Sure. It's getting my promo video out in the world. I've been working on this new promo video. It's available. People, if they go to gregbennick.com, they can see it. But if you search on YouTube for Greg Bennick Team Building Keynote Speaker, it's my latest video on there. It's about 4 minutes long. It's absolutely awesome. Response has been incredible. It's only been out for 3 days, and getting it out there in the world and having more people see it. That's a goal, because I worked so hard with a team of editors on this video, and I would just love for more people to see it. And that lets me connect with people more. At the end of the day, the question isn't, how many gigs, events, keynotes do I have? It's how many people can I serve? How many teams can I pull together? How many people get inspired as a result of what I have to say? And the video is the key to that, to those keynotes, as it were. So I'm getting that video out in the world. That's my big goal, is to have as many people see it as possible. If they choose to book me, great. If they choose to buy my book, great. I just want them to see the video and enjoy it. So
I love it. When you create something like that, where it's like so much of your soul goes into it, and you're like really proud of it. It is so satisfying to create and share. And it's like you said, like you're not attached to the outcome on this. Like buy it, don't buy it. Like I don't, just enjoy it. Like you just want people to to consume the thing that you've created and go, oh,
Right.
it was good.
And have conversations about it. I mean, people who are watching the video, because the video isn't, Greg Bennick is the blah, blah, blah. I didn't take that approach at all. It's basically clips upon clips of me speaking very sincerely about things that matter to me. People have been responding to me saying, hey, that one thing you said in the video, ... really meant something to them. As I was flying just this last week I flew from Iceland back to the United States. And as I'm flying over the United States, I'm thinking to myself, I wish I could have every single person watch this video, because there's going to be quotes in the video that people will relate to. Even if every person in America doesn't hire me, I just would love them to see the video. So yeah, that's the goal, short term.
So great. Congratulations on creating something
Thank
like that. Like this
Thank
is, when you create something that you're really proud of,
it's great,
that's a
right?
good feeling.
Yeah, it's a great feeling.
I love that so much. All right, I want to know, will you come out here sometime and host? Since we're so Idlewild Woods, there's gonna be companies that come here and they need, and I'm like, like I can just already, I can see you right down there in the pasture. I'm pointing, like you can see, standing in the pasture, juggling. Can you juggle fire?
Absolutely, I can. Yeah, absolutely, I can.
Like, this would be so cool. Yeah, and mostly I'm asking selfishly because I just want to hang out with you.
I love it. That's wonderful. We can definitely make that happen for sure. I mean, I travel all over the place to meet with groups, and I would love to do it.
I think that'd be amazing. So good. All right. So one more time, where can people find out more and watch your video and get your book?
For sure. People can go to gregbennick.com. That's GregBennick.com. And the video is there. And certainly there's links to the book there as well. So let's just make that simple, gregbennick.com. And of course, I'm on LinkedIn as well under Greg Bennick, and Instagram and what have you. But go to my website, gregbennick.com, and drop me a line. I'd love to hear from people anytime.
I love it. Thank you so much for being my guest.
Thank you. I appreciate it. This has been fun.